my presentation will be on an attempt that we did in order to consider, why do we have an attempt that we did to consider the implementation gap and how to bridge the implementation gap in terms of the coastal setback zone definition, which is a definition that Rachel previously described as a key definition for the ICZ-10 protocol. And our work was focusing on the defining and determining an innovative methodology that could be possibly potentially applied to all Mediterranean countries, especially starting from Greece, in order to provide a more objective way of defining the coastal setback zone. Now, I discussed the issue with Alexandropolis from the Municipality of Kavala, who gave me really the idea of setting this idea as a basic case study for Kavala Municipality, and we applied it in shoreline, which is a rocky area, as you may see the images back of you. This is a rocky shoreline, which is significantly important for Kavala because it has about 100 old houses built at the beginning of the century, 1920s, 1910, if I remember well. And these houses are becoming now illegal as a result of the false, or let's say incorrect, determination of the coastal setback zone. So I will start by stating what is the coastal setback. The coastal setback is considered as a buffer zone, which is determined by a specific distance from the shoreline's highest winter water mark. So this is the key point. The key point here is that we have to define a buffer zone, and this buffer zone has a baseline starting from the highest winter water mark. This is what the protocol states. And why? And within this zone, permanent constructions are not allowed. So urban planners should consider that within this setback zone, the space should be left empty. And what are the reasons of doing that? The reasons for leaving an empty area, a public zone, is to ensure the public access, to protect the ecological and landscape integrity of the coastal zone, and also to minimize the natural risk hazards. You see now images from Britain or from the United States that we have natural hazards, and you see that most of the coastal zone in Britain, in southern and southwestern Britain, is affected by extreme wave and flooding events. And this protection comes now, I believe, when the protocol was written, it's the third bullet. I believe it should be the first bullet now, that we see the impact of this type of hazards. So, what is the width of the setback zone? We looked over the literature to understand what sort of width is used and is defined by legislation in different Mediterranean countries, all countries all over the world, because I can say that this setback methodology tool is used even in Australia or in the United States. So we found a report by FAO that says that we have imposed setback rules which vary substantially worldwide. In terms of the setback baseline definition, different countries apply different definitions. The width of the exclusion zone, the types of the activities and uses which are excluded or restricted, and the contents and context of the exclusion regime. Just to give you an idea, different countries use setback zones varying from 100 to 1,000 up to 1,000 meters. This is very important. Now, I use here a figure coming from, calling from from Spain, San Noetol 2009, which determines the coastal setback zone for Spain from the Spanish Coastal Act of 1988, which is 100 meters. So the zone starts using this baseline. So it takes the relief of the coastline and considers this is the baseline, and it considers this 100-meter distance and defines the coastal setback zone by this, using the relief of the coastline. Now, setback lines and zone were firstly introduced in international treaties by the Article 8.2a of the Mediterranean ICS-10 Protocol. Why they were established? In order to ensure the biodiversity protection, to maintain the ecosystem services of the coastline, to preserve cultural and natural assets and traditional landscapes, and to protect population and infrastructure from climate change risks. Now, this provision, I have made, I believe, a presentation in the previous meetings that we had, and I showed that there are what are the challenges and the problems that we have now in the Mediterranean, and I explained that now one of the main problems that we have are the population rise in the coastal zone in the Mediterranean. We have an annual rate of 1.4% and projected 174 million people living in the coastal zone by 2025. We have seasonal terms to tourism flows, which escalate to up to 350 million tourists. We have artificial land cover, which is expanding at an alarming pace. And we have almost half of the Mediterranean coastline being concreted. And this is, and also we have landscapes and environmental and cultural sites being under constant degradation. So what is the implementation gap? The implementation gap is, according to my opinion, that there is no specific and unified and integrated guidelines which up to date examine how to determine the coastal setback lines and zone as means for their implementation. So this is for me, this is the implementation gap that we are trying to fill in. Furthermore, the fact that most coastlines face or are threatened by coastal erosion and the effects of climate change increase the need for a unified Mediterranean methodological framework on coastal setbacks definition. So we are looking at an area in Kavala Municipality, which is a steep and rocky coastal stretch, and we are trying to examine whether our methodology is applicable in this type of coastlines. Before I will say a few things about the legal aspects for coastal setbacks in Greece, although the protocol was adopted in 2008 and entered in force by 2011, some Mediterranean countries like Greece had already included in their legislation the concept of coastal setback zones. This is very strange for Greece, but it was in the past. Even the law from 1940s, Article 7, and I read it very thoroughly, defined a setback zone of 20 meters width and using as a baseline the mean sea level. So here the legislator uses a setback zone of 20 meters and defines a baseline as the mean sea level, understanding that the level of the sea is changing through time. So he just says that the mean sea level is the baseline. Newer legislation now restricted the area up to 30 meters distance from the coastline in urban coastal areas and in all settlements pre-existing 1923. The legal procedures for demolition or of illegal constructions were defined. Special plans and programs for the protection of the coastal zone and the sustainable use of natural and cultural environments were introduced, and we also introduced development control zones with land use restrictions around the urban areas. Also, we have the newer legislation. This is the latest piece of legislation that we have, which is Law 29
971 of 2001, which expanded the coastal setback zone up to 50 meters width. And the baseline now changes up to the maximum potential wave run-up on a sloping beach, which is defined as the highest winter water mark. Again now, the legislator says that we are moving from the mean sea level and we set the baseline at the highest winter water mark, which is according to the protocol. Exactly the same terminology was also used in the ICZ-10 protocol. In this zone, public access is unlimited, environmental and social goals for public interests are promoted, and all types of construction are prohibited. However, an objective method for the accurate determination of the highest winter water mark is not defined. So there is what the Greek legislation says, that there should be established a committee of administrators derived from regional public land management service, the regional environmental management department, and the local port authority. So a committee of a few administrators decide what is the level of the highest winter water mark, which is the baseline for the coastal setbacks. So to me, this is not an objective method, and obviously, if you apply this methodology all over Greece, you will find different approaches from different committees, deciding different things according to different criteria. So the law continues and sets a set of criteria to be considered for this process, but these are very general, like coastal geomorphology, vegetation seaward limit, local and broader meteorological conditions, maximum wave run-up, sea bottom morphology, wave edge. Okay, these are technical criteria, which are, however, the law doesn't say how to use them. And what is the weight of different criteria, of each of the criteria. So, according to what I have explained earlier, there is a lack of a well-described and well-prescribed and scientifically substantiated procedure which will objectively define the maximum potential wave run-up on the coast and therefore will accurately determine the highest winter water marks and the subsequent coastal setback zones. According to me, this is a gap, and this results in a series of, this deficiency results in a series of legal disputes between coastal property owners, like the one that we have in Kavala, I believe, other involved stakeholders with the state, potential coastal developers and the Greek state, leading to improper law enforcement and significant delays in the implementation of coastal development projects. So, our methodology is considers a stepwise procedure in which physical, ecological, socio-economic, administrative, and public participation processes should be considered. And I'm going to go through this methodology by this graph. So the importance of different, let's say, steps is given by the diameter of the circle. You see that the first step is coastal classification. I'm going to explain every step in the next slides. So the first step is to understand what is the type of the coast you are looking for. It's different to have a rocky shore and to have a sandy shore, sandy beach. The digital elevation model, which you have to examine, the determination of the highest winter water mark, but then we have to also look at the ecological and landscape values, the cultural and human values, the public coastal uses, the analysis of transit and accessibility issues, legal and administrative provisions, public involvement and discussion, and finally reach the setback definition. Now, I will go through these steps. The geomorphological coastal classification. In the Mediterranean coastal zone, we have 4 types of coastlines. We have the open sea sandy coastlines, the semi-enclosed coastal lagoons, the rocky coastlines, which are comprised of cliffs and lower bluffs, and the hard infrastructures, which are mostly man-made construction on the coastline. So we have to understand, we have to classify the coastline we are looking at, which specific type of these 4 types is falling in. We have the digital elevation model for the shoreline. We may use bathymetric and topographic data which could come from different sources. Like I have here a table with various sources, the precision, the density, and the cost. And all this will lead to an analytical digital elevation model for the examined coastline. Now, this is the biggest part of our contribution, which is how to determine the highest winter watermark. There are four basic physical processes which take place in the coastal zone. One is the wave effect, the tidal effect, the storm surge, and the beach erosion. So, if someone wants to consider the highest winter watermark, should consider all these four effects. In the case of a rocky shoreline, we can consider only these three first effects. And as beach erosion is not a significant process. So, what is the wave effect? How can we see the wave effect? We start by examining the offshore wind and wave data. This is what we did in our analysis. We studied the offshore wind and wave data. We derived with an extreme wind and wave analysis in order to see what sort of extreme wind and wave events might happen in the offshore open sea. Then we apply a wave model. The wave model is a model that produces waves from in the sea and from the open sea reaches the coastal zone. And then when the wave reaches the coastal zone, we apply a wave run-up models. All these tools are available in the literature, but no one really has put them in the same framework. So we have extreme value analysis. Extreme value analysis is a powerful tool for statistics. It can give you what sort of wind or what sort of wave do we expect within the next 20 years, or 50 years, or 100 years. So we use this tool. Also, wave models are there, and they are used for many applications. Also, wave run-up models are available, and in fact, the Coastal Engineering Manual of the United States Corps of Engineers provides this type of wave run-up models, and this model we used is the one that we used. In terms of tidal effect, you have to collect tidal data to implement a harmonic analysis on the tidal data and synthesize this data in order to predict the future. In terms of the storm surge, we have to see the meteorological impact on the water level. In case of a sandy beach, someone has to see also the impact of erosion. So he has to study satellite images to understand and determine the beach erosion rate, and then predict the shoreline retreat rate within the next 20 or 50 years. So all this analysis should be done in order to reach and define actually the maximum, the highest winter watermark. The other steps are the assessment of the ecological and landscape values of the shoreline. So we need to really consider the ecological functions of the coastal zone and the coastal landscapes. For example, the coastal setbacks should be different if we are in an urban or in an agricultural environment than if we are in an ecological sensitive area. For example, a Natura site should have a different setback zone. The assessment of the cultural and human values of the shoreline, again, should also be considered. I will move quite fast on this. The assessment of the public uses of the shoreline, existing buildings, valuable heritage and coastal uses should not be affected by new measures. Analysis of transit and accessibility issues of the shoreline. Private ownership may restrict public uses or access to coastal resources and should be considered and assessed at this stage. And the analysis of legal and administrative provisions. The administrative processes for the identification and implementation of the setback lines should start with the identification of an institution in charge. This exactly complies with what Rachel said earlier about the institutional provision of body which is in charge in each member state, and not having all this overlapping between different organizations and different committees. And these institutions should normally operate at a regional or national level. Public involvement and discussion before we end up with the final definition of the setback zone, we need to discuss with the public. So ReviGIS is an important tool now with, for this public participation. And finally, I will move, So I will explain a few things about the methodology of the highest winter watermark. So, as I said earlier, we have the statistical tools now to understand and to calculate the possibility of the occurrence of an extreme event. And extreme events with a return period of, let's say, 20, 50, or 100 years could be used for the determination of these highest winter watermarks. So, our methodology for this particular step is also divided in a step-to-step way. So, for the first move is to determine the offshore extreme wind and wave effects. So, we, in our case, collected data from an offshore monitoring station. The monitoring station is located between Mount Athos and Limnos. So it was in operation from year 2000 until 2012. And we had a contract with the operators. We received the data and we analyzed that data set. So we have an idea of what sort of winds and waves occur in the offshore sea, in the open sea. From this time series, we started a model of waves, producing waves. There are different models in the literature. We use SWAN, which is a model developed by DUTH, from Netherlands. There are other models, also one from the States, etc. But I believe we have a lot of experience using this model. So we produced waves, and then we also considered the impact of the tide and the storm surge effects by collecting data from the Port Authority. The Port Authority has a tide gauge at the Kavala Harbor, so we got this data set and we performed an analysis which is called harmonic analysis in order to understand what sort of waves are hidden inside the signal, and then we extrapolated in the future. The other step is how to determine the maximum potential wave run-up on a rough impermeable shore. So we followed the methodology which is given by the Coastal Engineering Manual, the US Army Corps of Engineers, 2005. This is the coastline, and you have the waves which are coming to the coastline, and then this is the wave run-up. The maximum wave run-up is the wave run-up of the maximum wave. So if we know the maximum wave, we know the maximum wave run-up. And if we know the maximum wave run-up, we determine the baseline of the setback zone. So our model solves these equations to calculate the position of point D. This is Kavala Gulf, the area of our interest. And this is the map created by the municipality of Kavala, which shows the whole coastline of Kavala Municipality. Our area of interest and case study is over there. This is the area that we studied. And you can see here, this is a map which was provided by the municipality, by Alexandropolis. And this is a digital elevation model. Everything was digitized and imported in a GIS. And together with the bathymetric information, we did an analysis and we did a model of the topography and bathymetry of the area. Then we collected the data from the Port Authority and we understood what is the impact. This is the impact of the wind on the sea level. So, as you see, there is the recorded time series and the analysis, the time series that we have with the red line over there, which is the theoretical time series that we produced by our analysis. And the difference between those two is the impact of the wind. So the impact of the wind is of the order of 10 centimeters. And we perform statistical analysis on the data that we collected from the offshore buoy, from the offshore monitoring station. And as you can see, this, we have wind speed data and wave height data. Okay, so you see here that up to 22 meters per second is the maximum wind speed, and up to 5.5 meters is the maximum wave height that was recorded within this period. Now, we can, however, we can extrapolate that using a methodology which is called extreme value analysis. With extreme value analysis, we may understand what could be the potential, the possibility of the probability of having an extreme event within a certain return period. So these are some plots from this analysis, and these are the results. So you see here that for the various years, we have 25 years, 50 and 100 years return period. We have minimum, mean and maximum wind speeds that events that might occur, and wave heights. Now, we run the model. This is the zone of the model, the grids. We have an open grid. Somewhere here is the monitoring station. We have an open grid, a medium grid, and a small scale grid for the coastal zone that we are studying. So we run the model. Here you see the waves propagating from the south to the north. These arrows show the direction of the waves, and as you can see, there are waves moving from south to north, but there are areas that the land restricts the propagation of these waves. So this is the grid 1 for the coast grid that we used. This is for 50 years and for 100 years events. And now we are moving to Kavala, the medium-sized grid. Again, the propagation of waves, and you can see the bar on the right, which is the wave height. And here we are moving. I'm sorry, I forgot. This is the small-scale model, which shows the coastline. Sorry.
Yeah, can you please explain a bit more?
This is one model gives result to the next model. So, for example, the waves from here and are entered to this grid, and they propagate in this area. So we have this is the Kavala Gulf, and this is the small scale area.
Which part exactly?
This area is located at the top of the. I cannot really show. It's located over here. Here.
Oh, right. Thank you.
Okay. So a part of this area is like zooming and zooming in the area that you are interested in. So one model gives results to the next model, and the next model takes these results and calculates and calculates. So you refine your accuracy of your results. So at the end of the day, we reach the waves at the coastline, the maximum waves, with a certain return period. And if we have done that, we are calculating with the wave run-up model the different lines, which are the maximum wave, the highest winter watermark lines. So you see here, I don't know why the colors are different, but anyway, this is mean water level, the blue line. The first line is the highest winter watermark for the 25 years return period. The other line over here is the 50 years, and this red line is the 100 years. So it's up to the administrators, to the legal people, to decide which is the best line in order to protect the coastline. And it's not my job to do it. What I offer is 3 different solutions, and these 3 different solutions have different perspectives, different time frames, so the events will be different. The extreme events are completely different. By that, someone can come and really find which houses and which sort of constructions are illegal or not. And here you can see an example, I believe, of the blue line again is the mean water level, mean sea level, and the different zones that we have found according to the wave runout model. And here as well. Things to do, I did this slide a few minutes ago. So, one, to discuss with you whether the methodology which is presented could fill the implementation gap on the setbacks at the Mediterranean level, or even at national level, whatever, and to provide a draft a legal recommendation on coastal setbacks to be included in the ICSM protocol and the revised marine strategy framework of the EU.
Back to the previous transparency. What would you recommend for each of these if you had your dream world?
Nowadays that we have seen all this devastation that we saw in what happened in Britain, I would be really very, very strict on defining the baseline. I would go to the red line. Now, a month ago I wouldn't. I must say that as we live, we can experience. I really don't know.
I missed something. What happened a month ago?
No, but what I'm saying is that as now that we have some experience about what happens in Britain and the coastal floods that the people are in, all the infrastructure is facing there, I would say that the red line is the most appropriate. But I really don't. We haven't seen this type of damages in Greece.
Can you tell us a bit about land or sea area, size-wise, breadth-wise, structures-wise? What are the implications of the different lines?
Well, the different lines mean, I don't know if what is the width of the setback zone now for Kavala. It's 10 meters. So, according to so from the baseline, this is a baseline. So what we have to do is to draw another line, 10 meters in line.
Not from the blue line, from the red line.
No, from the red. From whatever line you believe that is the most appropriate.
The lines are
This is the baseline.
years of flood events. So the red is 100. Every 100 years there'll be a flood event that goes to the wind.
Yeah. And where is the current?
The current is the blue line. This is the sea level.
Yes, but how many meters, kilometers, structures, whatever, in between those two, between the blue and the red?
It depends, it changes.
In this
Here,
example. In this
but
example.
here is very close and here is very far.
No, the entire.
As an average.
Suppose you have to pay for it.
I didn't hear you.
Give us a sense of how much land is there, how much water, how many structures, how much money, how much value. I mean, all I see now is lines.
No, they are not only lines. There are people living and
So
properties.
give me some numbers.
Yeah, this is what I'm going to tell you tomorrow.
No, right now, this, just give,
For this,
come alive. I mean, for Georgios, it comes alive with fish. I'd like it to come alive with money and
Oh, okay. This is the mean sea line, but actually the sea line is here. But this is out of the model when we calculate. In 25 years, it says will be there in here in 50 and 100 years.
What's on the ground
But
there?
we have
On
now,
the ground there is houses.
How much is built up?
it two-story houses.
How much of this area is built up?
This is it here, but that's what I'm saying. This is here. We applied the model
Okay.
on the.
It's all built up.
Yes.
Oh yes, it is built up, and some have ownership deeds since 1928.
Okay, those are the, so it's all built up.
Yes,
and we'll
it
get
is
the
built up.
details.
Yes. Anything more on this now or tomorrow?
Well, at least it's coming alive. I don't know, anybody want to?
Alive?
Yeah,
Georgios? Yeah.
maybe the details will be tomorrow, but in Kavala, how much area is covered by the red line?
I don't have the percentage, but it is,
No, how much percent?
if you
What
can see,
percent?
How many hectares?
buildings here,
Hectares.
I don't have the percentage of land.
No, what percent? We're losing a lot of land.
Hectares. Hectares.
But
What's the area?
consider that, if you consider that this is the baseline, then this land, this strip will be public, should be public. And everything which is built in here should be illegal. That's it.
But we also have,
I don't remember now the numbers. I have them in my computer. It's very easy to calculate, you know, because everything is in a
but we
GIS.
also have court decisions saying that when somebody has a piece of land, cultivates, takes the products and lives with this for 100 years, the country, the city, the country is not allowed to come and say
Let's not get
afterwards.
into the legal. That we'll do tomorrow. All we were asking is, in this example, is it 20 hectares or 1,000 hectares?
We can calculate it tomorrow.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very easy to calculate.
Okay.
It's not a big strip anyway, this is a small part. Yeah, it's in this area, it's in this strip. There are 50, about 50 owners.
It's 100.
Okay, very good.
It's 100.
Do you want to open it to discussion now? How's the time? Who's keeping who's moderating?
Once this is finished,
Which is my... Mariana?
If there are any questions,
Georgios, would you like to start
No, I just wanted to, if you, in terms of the methodology, if you would like to discuss anything.
I have one question. I think the model, the presentation is very good for an urban built area. Do you have one for an open space area where nothing is built, just natural resources? What would happen to the same?
To us, the building is irrelevant. To us, we just see the coast. I mean, we just, as I said in my methodology, we have to define which type of coastline we have. If we have an open sea coastline which is rocky, or if it is a coastline which is a sandy beach, therefore we have to consider erosion as well. Now, the buildings are not considered in the analysis. Even in Kavala, we didn't consider the buildings at all. We developed a digital elevation model. So if private ownerships or other buildings are there, are not considered from the red line or the other lines.
How many people are living in this building?
How many? I really don't know. There are 100 houses, so 400 people.
How many?
400 people. If there are 100 houses, about 400 people.
Yeah, in China, how are we residential?
this would be applicable to all the sea basins, like Red Sea or the Black Sea, or
Well,
do you need to develop your own criteria?
I don't see why not. I really don't know the legal background on how to support it. But technically, in terms of engineering, in terms of calculations and models, all models are giving information one to the other. So we start with the open sea analysis, we perform extreme value analysis in order to see what sort of events you may have. Then you run your wave model, then you run your wave runout model. So everything is in line. Now, to me, yes, if you have the opportunity to do it, somebody can do it. My understanding is that it's irrelevant of the area.
Yeah, because I think it's a very good methodology. I mean, what you
Well, also, this methodology is built on the fact that the highest watermark is defined in the legal documents, but not defined technically. So, depending on what sort of legislation you have in your area, if mean sea level is your baseline, then you should go to this.
The problem is they look only at corals, you know.
Yes.
There is coral reef, then
Corals.
corals.
Yes, but
They're taking one difference.
yes, but the ecological sensitive areas are also considered, should also consider.
Yeah, this is the problem, is they take one criteria in Jordan,
Yeah.
which is the ecological services, which is the case, and they forget about the human, the erosion, the wind, the reef, the tidal zone issues like that.
Okay, you know, so I feel, is your analysis, does it differ from the models that exist? Did you tweak up or change existing models?
No, we use the existing models, but in a different, line. You just have a different. We use existing models. The one model gives information to the next model.
Now, from what I know, some countries post these calculations. Are they posted, are they public information in Greece or?
But in Greece, the legislation, as I explained, says
Not
that
the
this,
legislation, not the legislation.
in terms of what?
You're doing impact of, well, calculation of the line in nature according to statistical models. Is that data public information? Probably not, because you're.
No.
I think in the United States, there are states that post such information as public information.
Well, if the report of Mare Nostrum will be public, whenever it will be public,
Okay, I think it's something we should
Published.
check, I don't know who I'm talking to, but the question of how information is regulated on such issues in different countries.
yes.
Not what is done with the law, but simply what is the obligation of government to publish and to update information about the engineering calculations, the statistical calculations on the impacts of climate change.
Question. It's still not clear to me. Are you saying that the 100-year line, is that a 100-year flood event, or is that you think in 100 years the sea line will?
No. I'm saying that an extreme event might happen
Years.
once every 100 years, according to statistical possibility.
Probability of 100-year flood.
That's just checking.
Yes.
Does your model take into account the sea level rise? Maybe
We can do that. We haven't done it yet, but we can continue. We can include, but this is according to the projections of us. What we are trying to do is to provide an instrument which is operable today. Okay, in the next 100 years, I agree that perhaps the mean sea level will rise, but we are trying to define a setback zone today. Okay, so the model should be adapted to the possibility of an extreme event according to the current information.
Current information
That
based
happens
on
one
past
hundred
data.
On a rocky slope, yes, on a rocky slope, erosion is not an issue. But in a sandy beach, erosion should also be considered, so the sea level rise plus the erosion effect should be considered in the...
Because maybe even like this would have feedback loops that would further change the data. You see what I'm saying?
We have to be very careful when we introduce a projection of sea level rise, because there are hundreds of models which say different projection of the different expected value. It's very difficult now to select which one will be the correct one. I believe that this tool can be used of defining the setback zones today. So what happens in the future, perhaps we can again adapt it. But as a methodology, I believe we should pursue.
I must add that this going up of the sea wave, is not going to stay permanently 20 meters up. Just in 100 years might happen. The wave goes there and then the sea level goes down. You don't have that much tidal events in coastal zone. And actually, these people are living there 85 years. The sea never came up where this committee draw the line. And if you take an account with 85 years plus the 50 that we as municipality are saying, it's 125 years. Protection starting from when the first persons were in there. But anyway, I'll tell you more about what the municipality will do tomorrow.
We would like to do an international survey of the literature regarding the issue of climate change and political crisis as not from an engineering point of view, but again, those norms adopted by various jurisdictions. Something we should look at, right, Georgios, to correspond between what you've done and what various governments around the world are doing officially in terms of putting, I mean, the issue of probabilities of extreme events, I think that's well known. How is climate change, it isn't factored into future models used by governments? Would you like to look into that, or something else?
Yes, but my question to you would be, what is the methodology that you use in Israel to define the coastal sector or in other countries? This is what will be interesting.
To you, okay. That's, I mean, there's what the governments use and what the scientists use. You're saying what the governments use?
Yeah,
Yes,
governments set setbacks, not the scientists.
And also,
We'll have to
how can we somehow transform this methodology into a legal paragraph?
okay, that's a big issue, but that's not easy to be, that's what we're here for. But before we look at that, I want to see what other governments, other jurisdictions and
I have several documents.
Huh?
I have reviewed the.
Okay.
So there are several reports from different countries. So
Okay.
as I said, there is a difference between 100 and up to 1,000 meters.
Yeah,
for the
but
coastal zone.
we'll see how detailed the report is. If not, we can add to it.
Please on the microphone, cannot hear
That's
you.
not, yes, the area of this one is lower.
Probably the first step you could do without having to wait for regulations is integrated into environmental impact assessment. When a plan comes for coastal development, you could use this methodology. You have to talk to the government, but this wouldn't require even a regulation. It could be done really pretty fast. It's just touching base with the government planners. So we can already start using it today.
Okay, anything else?
What's for lunch?
Lunch is served?
Yes.
We'll reconvene. Here.
When?
We'll
What time?
continue in an hour.
What time do we reconvene at 2?
No, at 2:30. Gives us time to meet.
When do we reconvene?
2:30. 2:30, we're going to correct the plan. 2. 2 o'clock. But we have 1 hour left.
Simon,
We have 1 hour for lunch.
I think that was the final presentation. So
1 hour for lunch.
give us maybe 1 hour.
Non-negotiable.
Okay, 1 hour.